Welcome to this explainer. When most people picture a farm, they imagine this incredibly peaceful scene, right? Rolling green hills, quiet mornings, maybe a rooster crowing in the distance. But actually, it turns out a farm is essentially a heavy industrial workplace that's just kind of disguised as a petting zoo. Today, we're going to shatter that peaceful illusion and discover the gritty reality of agricultural safety. We're operating out in the open elements, surrounded by massive machinery, volatile chemicals, and completely unpredictable biological elements. So consider this your official agricultural survival guide.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Our survival guide is broken down into 4 quick phases. First, we'll cover the reality of farming. Second, the 6 types of farm hazards. Third, we'll look at your farm's safety armor. And fourth, first aid for emergencies.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the reality of farming. Before we even step out into the mud, we really need to get our basic vocabulary down. A hazard is simply the potential for harm. Think of a dangerously sharp tool just sitting quietly on a workbench, or a slippery floor right after a morning rain, or a sealed container of chemicals sitting on a shelf. A hazard on its own isn't an accident yet. It's literally just a threat waiting for the perfect conditions to strike.
Now think about a highly toxic pesticide compared to a pair of unprotected bare hands handling it. That is the absolutely crucial difference between a hazard and a risk. The hazard is the raw potential for injury, the chemical itself. The risk, on the other hand, is the possibility of that injury actually happening based on human action. When someone chooses to handle that chemical hazard barehanded, well, they've just created the risk that leads to an accident. Recognizing this difference is step 1 in taking control. Why? Because while we definitely can't eliminate every single hazard on a farm, we can absolutely control the risk.
Let's move on to Section 2, the 6 types of farm hazards.
Let's categorize the specific enemies you might face out in the field. Interestingly enough, farming is consistently ranked as one of the most dangerous occupations in the entire world, and we start with physical hazards. These are threats literally embedded in your everyday environment. It's the extreme heat of the midday sun beating down on you, the deafening noises of the machinery, poor ventilation in a dusty storage barn, or falling objects. Even a simple, muddy, slippery pathway is a physical hazard that can take you out with a severe injury before you've even touched a single farming tool.
Next up, we have the heavy hitters, mechanical and electrical hazards. This is where the massive scale of farming really shows its teeth. We are talking about massive tractors, cranes, and incredibly complex electrically operated machines. And the dangers here? They are catastrophic. We're looking at the potential for severe electric shocks, full-blown electrocution, or horrific crushing injuries from fast-moving machine parts. Look, heavy equipment helps prepare the land a lot faster, for sure, but it demands your absolute respect.
Then we have the highly volatile category, chemical hazards. Modern agriculture relies so heavily on pesticides, fertilizers, acids, and powerful cleaning agents. These are intensely dangerous substances. If handled improperly, they don't just cause a mild skin rash. We are talking about triggering deadly fires, massive explosions, or severe systemic poisoning.
Now here's where things get a bit stealthy, the invisible threats. Biological hazards include living organisms like bacteria, viruses, mold, insects, and vermin, all of which are just a constant presence on a farm. But equally dangerous, and often totally ignored, are psychosocial hazards. This is the mental toll of the job. Family problems, severe work stress, and conflicts with other workers can silently break someone down. It causes distraction and fatigue, which, you guessed it, inevitably leads right back to physical accidents.
Finally, we have ergonomic hazards. This basically means your own body can betray you. If incorrect body movements, awkward postures, or improper lifting techniques are used day in and day out, your body is going to suffer. It's just a matter of time. These repetitive movements lead to chronic muscle pain, severe sprains, and debilitating back pain that can literally end a farming career prematurely.
Which brings us to a highly important question, right? With all these physical, chemical, and biological dangers lurking in the soil and the machinery, how do we actually protect ourselves from these daily threats? How do you step out there and safely survive the day?
Well, that perfectly sets up Section 3, your farm's safety armor.
When it comes to following occupational health standards and suiting up, your absolute first line of defense is actually behavioral. Honestly, it doesn't matter what high-tech gear you wear if your actions are reckless. Never, ever treat a heavy tractor like a passenger vehicle. When you're operating heavy equipment, buckle up. A seatbelt must always be worn. And for chemicals, the rules are incredibly rigid for a reason.
store them in locked cabinets, avoid spraying during strong winds, never wash your equipment near water sources, and absolutely under no circumstances reuse empty chemical containers. These behaviors stop the risk before it ever has a chance to form.
Okay, so once those behaviors are locked in, it's time for the physical armor. There are 6 essential types of personal protective equipment, or PPE. First, a respirator protects your lungs from inhaling harmful substances. Second, eye protection, like goggles or safety glasses, shields against chemical sprays and flying objects. Third, proper footwear protects your feet from slipping, stepping on sharp objects, and even animal bites. Fourth, heavy-duty gloves defend your hands against chemicals and infected plants. Fifth, a solid hat protects your head from extreme sun heat and falling objects. And finally, protective clothing, like long sleeves and heavy jeans, shield the rest of your body from harmful environmental elements. It's literally a full-body shield.
But what happens when that armor fails? Let's get into our final phase, Section 4, First Aid for Emergencies.
Accidents happen, right? So let's frame this as a mini scenario. Imagine a pesticide splashes directly onto your skin. Bam! That is a chemical burn. Panic is absolutely not an option here. The affected area must immediately be rinsed with water for a full 15 minutes. No cutting corners. While you're doing this, strip away any contaminated clothing to stop further exposure. Once it's thoroughly rinsed, cover the burn with a clean cloth to prevent biological hazards, like bacteria, from entering the wound.
Now, let's imagine a completely different scenario. A coworker suddenly collapses in the dirt under the harsh midday sun. Whether it's fainting or severe heat stroke, your immediate steps are exactly the same. Get them out of the hazard zone and into a cool place with fresh air immediately. Lay the victim flat on their back and loosen their clothing so they can breathe easier. Apply a cold compress to bring their core body temperature down quickly and be fully prepared to transport them to a hospital if they don't stabilize right away.
What's really crucial here is how different traumas require completely different immediate responses. If a worker goes into shock, your job is to lay them on their back, keep them warm, and raise their feet and legs slightly to help blood flow to the vital organs. And crucially, no food or drinks whatsoever. But if you're dealing with severe bleeding from, say, a mechanical hazard, the protocol completely shifts. You cover the wound with a clean cloth, apply direct, hard pressure for 5 solid minutes, elevate the injured part, and then secure it tightly with a bandage. Memorizing these distinct protocols is what actually saves lives in the field.
So, as we've seen, a farm is not just a peaceful place where things grow. It's a complex, incredibly hazardous industrial environment that demands your respect, your focus, and your preparation. We now know the vital difference between a hazard and a risk. We know the 6 major threats, the physical and behavioral armor required to face them, and the critical first aid protocols to use when things go sideways. So the real question is, out there in the fields, armed with this knowledge, will you be a victim of the farm or a master of its risks?